So now we've dealt with the entity, the DTO, and the handler. Next up, let's tell our application that we will actually want to use SignalR. So in our startup class inside our API, we don't actually need to add anything to this because inside our API, inside the CS proj file, we have access to all of the packages inside Microsoft.ASP.NET Core app. And one of those packages inside there is ASP.NET Core SignalR. So we don't need to add anything additional to our API. And what we'll do, inside our services, we'll add the service for SignalR, and I'm just going to add it above the add MVC and say services.add SignalR. And there's two options here. There's SignalR and SignalR Core. And SignalR Core only gives us the minimum essential services, but we're just going to go for the default option. And this is going to give us our ASP.NET Core SignalR services. And we don't need to add any additional configuration to this. And what we need to do then is go down to the bottom into our configure section, and just above use MVC, I'm going to say app and use SignalR. Now we do need to provide this with some routes of where our chat function is going to be located. So our MVC routes are configured to use API, and the routes we'll specify in here. So I'll add routes and then the expression. And inside this object, I'm just going to say routes.maphub. And then we specify the name of our hub, and in this case it's going to be called Chat Hub. And then we specify the path, and in this case I'm just going to call it Chat. And we need to create the Chat Hub. And this Chat Hub is going to be kind of the equivalent to our API controllers endpoints. So we give it a route, and our clients are going to make a connection to this chat hub. And what our clients will be able to do is the methods that we create inside our chat hub, they'll be able to invoke these methods from the client and also receive the response back when they're connected to this chat hub. So let's go ahead and create this. And what I'll do inside the API project, I'm just going to create a new folder and just call this SignalR. And inside here, I'm just going to create a new class and call it Chat Hub. And inside our Chat Hub, this is going to derive from Hub, which we get from SignalR. So we'll bring in ASP.NET Core SignalR. And what we'll also do, because we want to send the creation of a comment to our create handler, we'll also bring in mediator into this as well. So we'll generate a constructor and we'll inject mediator in just as we've been doing in our API controllers. So I'll bring in iMediator and call it mediator. And we'll need to say using mediator, and we'll just initialize the field from the parameter. And I can take out this dot. And what we want to do in here is create a new method. So it's going to be a public async task, and I'm going to call it send comments. And just like any of our API methods, I'm going to send the create command, and I'll need to bring in application comments. And be careful here because we've got the same name. Because I'm using simple names for our classes, make sure we bring in the namespace for application comments here. And then we want to send our command. And we'll also need to bring in system threading tasks in here as well. So the idea of this, and specifically what this method is called, whereas in our API controllers, and if I just go to our activities controller for comparison, in our activities controller, it doesn't matter what we call this in the name of the method. The only thing that's important inside our controller is the root and the root parameters and the type of request. So an HTTP GET with an ID is going to hit this particular method, and it doesn't matter if it's called details or not. We're not using that to make the connection to our API. It's the route and the route parameters and the HTTP request type that defines which route we hit when we make a request to our API endpoint. Inside our chat hub, this name of this method is what we're going to use from our client side to invoke this particular method. And what we'll do inside here is we're going to need to get our username. And we're going to need to get this from the hub context. Now it's not quite available yet, but it will be after we've done what we're going to do after this. But our username we're going to get from the hub context. So we'll say hub context.user, and we'll add the question mark and claims, question mark, and first or default. And just like in our getting it from our HTTP context, we'll do the same thing. We'll say x.type is equal to claim types, and we'll need to bring in system security claims dot name identifier, add again the question mark and value. And then what we want to do is add our username to our command which we're sending to our create handler. So we'll say command.username equals username. And then what we'll do is we'll say var comment equals await mediator.send, and then we'll send a command. And then what we want to do is send this comment to any clients that are connected to this particular chat hub. So we'll say await clients.all, and we'll say send async, and then we give the method a name, and in this case I'm just going to call it receive comment, and we'll pass in the comments. So the idea is that our client invokes the send comment, which then goes ahead and sends our command to our mediator handler. All the logic happens in our handler, and we get back the comment after it's been saved to our database. And then this comment is sent to all of the clients that are connected to our hub. But what we also need to do is deal with lists, and what we need to make available is our token to our hub context. And we'll take a look at what we need to do to achieve that next.